Good morning. My name is Petronia. I am the wife of Petronius, and I have come all this way, traveling through time and space from first century Rome. My hair didn't make it very well. I understand you have a hairdresser. Gail, do you think there's anything you could do with this mess? Oh my goodness. The palms couldn't make it from New Jersey, and my hair couldn't make it from the Middle East. Now let me tell you something. My husband, Petronius, he would have chosen any other duty that day. One more physically challenging to him would have suited him well. But he was Petronius, Roman centurion, leader of 100 men. And he had to set an example for those men. And he had to lead them through the most difficult of situations. Take school plays, for example. I will admit to you that Petronius, he had seen many men die, placed brutally on that jagged timber. I tell you this so that you know that he was not overly lenient. As a matter of fact, he sought pleasure in the proceedings most of the time because he reasoned that justice had been satisfied. Oh, goodness. But maybe not this time. He was not wholly unfamiliar with the man in the middle. He considered him a delirious, delusional religious zealot who delighted in instructing the masses on a new religious philosophy. But he had not done anything. He had not done anything that was wrong against the Roman government. In fact, my Petronius, he had heard about these special healings that were done at his hands. And he performed these special healings for people that were not of his nationality, including a soldier who had sought out his help in the midst of a household emergency. That was different. And on Crucifixion Day, on that day, it was such a bad day. Petronius stood apart from his men. And his men, they were playing games of chance for the opportunity to take this man's clothing. But my Petronius, he stood away. He stood back and he just watched the painful ordeal as the teacher's life receded like a pool of water in the midst of a drought. It was very painful to watch. And then my Petronius, he saw the inscription that was above the man's head. King of the Jews. Now I have to admit to you that me and my Petronius, we both laughed at such an absurd notion at first. King of the Jews. Well, the Jews had no king, and in fact, they would never have a king if our government had anything to do with it. But there were these women at a distance who were weeping for this man. And one of his ragamuffins brought a woman and approached to the foot of the crosses. And the one that stood above us, from his position above us, he started speaking, and he instructed his disciple to take care of her. Was this his mother? And truthfully, she did not look much older than the one who was condemned. Yet there was a notable pain, a notable weight that made both mother and son weary. As the day proceeded, the two men that were with him, who would later die that day because of their crimes against Rome, began to speak to him. One ridiculed him, the other did not. But the man in the middle, his composure was remarkable. This man was saying words of encouragement even when people were reviling him. This man was asking forgiveness for the ones who were insisting that his life be forfeited. This man asked for forgiveness for my Petronius. And that day, Petronius just stood back apart from his men and waited and watched. and his men, they took a sponge and they filled it with a vile wine vinegar and gave it to him. I think it might be a matter of age, but these young men, it was just a blood sport for them. All they could really think about of mortality was that mortality was for those who were not fortunate enough to be young or not fortunate enough to be Roman. And so they just played this sport. My husband found himself agreeing with Pilate that this man, he did not deserve, he had not done anything worthy of dying, and he had not done anything worthy of the cruelness that my comrades were placing upon him. But here we were. I will tell you that Petronius spent many of his days on that hill putting people to death, striking the hammer against the nail for those who had been murderers and anarchists and those who were trying to overthrow the Roman government. But this man had done none of those things that caused my Petronius to be a zealot for Roman justice. He had really done nothing. And at one point, the man in the middle gazed right into Petronius' eyes. And Petronius told me later he had never felt anything like that. He gazed right into his eyes. And it was as if he was peering down into the depths of his soul. And Petronius was moved to the point that he had found appreciation for this man. And the time came. The teacher was having trouble breathing. And he was there nailed to that cross. And he would lift up on his toes to relieve his lungs so that he could get a full breath. And then he would slump because the feet would hurt so bad from the tearing of the piercing of the nail. And then he would repeat that again. And then the pain would move to his wrists and to his arms. And he would slump again. And then he cried out these words from above. He cried out, "It is finished!" And that is when he died. And my Petronius felt a tear running down his face. He really couldn't believe that he was feeling this way about this teacher. This teacher had touched his heart. And he found himself crying. And all of a sudden everything went black. And the earth was trembling beneath our feet. And we got word that graves were opening up. And we got word that the veil that keeps the Jewish people separated from the Holy of Holies tore in two and gave them access to the Holy of Holies. And my Petronius found himself saying, "Truly, this is the Son of God." And he couldn't believe that he was uttering these words, but the rain mixed and mingled with the tears. And he came home and he told me about this. Truly, this is the Son of God. This is the truth. He is God's Son. And I have to tell you that our lives, meeting God, the Son of God face to face, that gaze that pierces our heart, that love that pours into our wounds, truly, our lives, for having met Him, will never be the same again.
All right, let's do our song, "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross."
Strong
Methodist Church. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you. May you leave this place having experienced that gaze from God. May you leave this place going out from here to proclaim He truly is the Son of God. May you leave this place ever aware that this is a holy week, and may you make it holy. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let's sing Precious Name.